I'm sure everyone here has used a third-party app at some point in their life. So a third-party app is an app either on a phone or a computer that is used to access a website or some sort of online service. And the catch is that you get different kinds of features and ways in which to use it because you are using the third-party app. So an example of this would be if you have ever used the website called, I don't know if you've heard of it, it's called Twitter. So you obviously have the website itself you can access on your computer, and you've got the official app also you can get on your phone. And this is all provided through Twitter themselves. But then there's also third-party apps that are not made by Twitter. They are made by just other random companies. So for example, I remember back in the day when I had my iPod Touch, the big third-party Twitter app was called Twitterific. So Twitterific provided interfaces that at the time were not available on Twitter, you know, the Twitter app that people wanted. So I remember they had like a dark mode and like other random features that were not on the official Twitter app. It just made Twitter a lot easier to use. And so I remember at least back then, so I'm talking this was like over 10 years ago, I think Twitterific actually had more active users than the Twitter app itself. It was crazy. But I'm getting sidetracked. So that is essentially what a third-party app is, right? It is an app made by a random company that lets you access something with different, more convenient features. So that brings us to why Reddit has been under fire today. So you obviously have the official Reddit app on the phone. You know, you can get it on the phone, right? Well, there's a third-party Reddit app called Apollo that was created 6 years ago, and it currently has over 900,000 daily users. Oh my God. That is a lot, okay? Now I'm seeing that Reddit itself has about 50 million daily active users, which means 2% of Reddit's users are using Reddit through the Apollo app. And I know, maybe that doesn't sound like a lot, but putting it on a large scale like that is, that's a lot. Well, anyway, 3 days ago, Apollo's creator named Christian Seelig made a post stating that due to new pricing policies announced by Reddit back in April, essentially it will not be feasible anymore for Apollo to exist because it will cost him more money in the long run than he can ever make. So yeah, back in April, Reddit detailed a new pricing structure for its Application Programming Interface, or API. API is essentially the software that allows third-party apps to access the data within applications, and in this case, Reddit. So yeah, in this case, the API is what allows Apollo to function at all and allow people to use Reddit through them. And essentially, Christian has stated that this new pricing paywall that Reddit has announced is basically intentionally designed to be unrealistic so that third-party apps will be blackballed and will lose money as long as they exist, essentially forcing third-party Reddit apps to shut down. This paywall would charge third-party apps every time a user accessed Reddit's data through the third-party app. So basically, anytime somebody would use Apollo at all, Apollo would be charged for it, like a transaction fee, basically. And as Christian points out, with the current amount of active users that Apollo has, this would cost him upwards of $20 million a year, which he says even through the amount of money that he does make through Apollo, this is just way more than what he could ever make. So he said that he would always be in the red. Every day, every week, every month, every year, he would always be losing money no matter what. And he didn't outright come out and say that he was shutting down Apollo, but it's very heavily implied that that is what will happen. As a result, people have been furious with Reddit. A lot of Apollo users are saying that Apollo is the only reason they even use Reddit. That apparently Apollo has so many features that are extremely helpful that Reddit's official app does not have. People are also saying that Reddit is doing this because their company is expected to go public sometime this year, and they would want to essentially pull out everything that they can to show revenue growth. And so moving the almost 1 million Apollo users from Apollo to Reddit's app over the next few months now would basically show a massive growth. So people are saying that this was calculated and that this is hypocritical for Reddit to do this, since Reddit's MO has always been to put power back in the hands of the people. And by doing this, they are just showing that they are just acting in their own self-interest. And that's definitely a fair point, but at the same time, they are a business, so, take that for what you will. And people are comparing this to Twitter's practices from earlier this year that people are calling greedy, where Twitter basically did the same same thing, only a little bit more extreme. So back in January, Twitter just outright nuked all third-party Twitter apps by blocking access to Twitter's API, which, like I said, is what gives third-party apps access to their data. So by blocking their API from the public, third-party Twitter apps can no longer exist. Well, I mean, they can, but they can't actually do anything. And Twitter, whether you hate them for it or not, they did this basically for more money on their end. So I can only wonder, with two big platforms, Twitter and Reddit, axing third-party apps within the past 6 months, I can only wonder how much this will continue to be a thing for companies going forward who realize that, hey, there's more money to be made if they just completely cut out third-party apps. Whether you agree with it or not, I think this is the beginning of the end of third-party apps, as companies want the money they are losing from them.